Okay, so our first lesson is on slope, and we're going to find the x and y intercepts. The word intercept is another word for an intersection, specifically where the graph crosses the axes, the x-axis or the y-axis. So on the graph you'll see I plotted the two intercepts. This one here is the y-intercept. This one over here on the x-axis, the x-intercept. So I notice that the x value on the x-intercept is 25, so we have the coordinate 25, 0. The y-intercept coordinate 0, -4. Now intercepts can also be found using a table of values. We notice that for any one of these, the x or y value has a value of 0, so that's how we can identify on a table of values where an intercept might live. So the coordinate point 0, -24 is an intercept, and so is 12, 0. They each have a 0 in their coordinate. Since x equals 12, we can say that's the x-intercept coordinate, y equals -24, that's the y-intercept coordinate. The slope of a line measures the steepness of the line, like as in a staircase or ski slopes. The slope measures the ratio of the rate of change of y over x, so it is going to always be a fraction, the change in y over the change in x, the rise over the run. The rise over the run are simply the sides or legs of a right triangle when a line segment is drawn in the coordinate plane. Creating this right triangle, the run is the horizontal distance, the rise is the vertical distance, and so the ratio or the fraction of these two numbers is the slope. For this, we're going to need at least 2 points on a line to calculate the slope. The slope formula is going to allow us to do that, but we have to pick 2 points on the line. So I pick -2, 0, the x-intercept, and I pick another random point on the line, this time being the point 4, 3. Now using the slope formula, we identify x1, y1 and x2, y2, so that when we input them into the formula, we put those numbers in the correct places. So y2 is 3, y1 is 0, x2 is 4, x1 is -2. Going through and doing the math and simplifying, remembering that minusing a negative is positive, we have 3 minus 0 and 4 plus 2, 3 over 6, or 1/2 is our slope. A slope of 1 over 2. If I were to use the graph, I can count the rise and the run to get the same result. This next one will have a negative slope, as you can see the line decreases from left to right. So the number that we get for the slope should be a negative number. We calculate this to be -3 over 2. So finding the slope of the line means that we first have to find 2 points on the line using the graph. Now a line that's horizontal will have 2 coordinate points on it that share the same y value. In this case, they share the y value -1. When this happens, the change in y, or y2 minus y1, on the top of that slope formula will always result in 0, and therefore we will get a slope of 0. Horizontal lines have a slope of 0. Now when we talk about a vertical line, one that goes up and down, like a wall, this is going to present a problem when calculating the slope, as we will soon see. When the x values are exactly the same, here the x values are 4, we get a denominator of 0, and dividing by 0 is something that gives us a number that is not defined, an undefined number, so we say that it has no slope, since no number can be defined here. That indicates a vertical line. Know the difference between no slope and 0 slope. Positive slope climbs from left to right. Negative slope decreases. 0 slope, horizontal. Undefined slope, vertical. The rise and the run are really useful for using or finding the slope when you have a graph. So we measure the upward distance here to be 2, the horizontal or run distance to be 3, and therefore the rise over the run in this case would be 2 over 3. In the second example, we create again a right triangle, which then can give us the rise as time downward, so we're going to get a negative 8 number of boxes, and still going to the right here, so that's positive 5. The rise is negative 8, and the run is positive 5, giving us a slope of negative 8/5. So when you're traveling along from one point to another on the line, down is negative, right is positive, up is positive, left is negative. So next, let's do a few practice examples given 2 points. Find the slope of the line that passes through these 2 points. So I'm identifying my y values and their difference, the x values and their difference. I get a negative over a negative, which is ultimately positive, and I get a reduced fraction of 1/2. The slope of that line is 1/2. The little m value is 1/2. Another quick example here, taking 2 points, putting the values in the proper place, we get a negative 5 over negative 9. A negative divided by a negative is always positive. 5/9 is the slope. And again, we don't have a graph to work with here, so just judging the formula to get us the slope, we get a 2 over 1, which would also just be known as 2. A slope of 2. A table of values is really no different than working with a graph. It's just how do you read the coordinates from the table. So picking 2 x and y pairs, we can then write them as coordinates and do the same procedure as before. We divided by 0 here, therefore this must be a vertical line, an undefined slope. In the next example, I pick 2 other random points from my table of values, calculate the slope using the formula, and I get 2/3 this time, a positive slope. So this line would climb from left to right. Here's a quick challenge problem. They give us 2 coordinate points where one of the y values is unknown, and they tell us what the slope is equal to, 1/3. Using the slope formula, I would just substitute the values from the coordinates as I see them, as if they were all numbers, and I get some sort of expression, something that's in terms of r. We follow that up by letting that expression get simplified, and we set that equal to the slope that they told us that it was, which is 1/3. Now that gives us a little equation to solve, but nothing too hard. We use a little cross multiplying here because it's a proportion. And with a little simplification, we can solve this equation for r and find that value that they told us to find in the question. So we didn't know what it was as a number, but we pretended like we did and followed through, and we found the result to be r equals 2. Quick exit ticket. So when we fill in the blanks here, we have these words to work with. When a line has a positive slope, it rises from left to right. Falls if it has a negative slope from left to right. A horizontal line only runs, has a slope of 0. And a vertical line, well, it says when a vertical line, it is rise only, or only rise. And an undefined slope, or no slope, is what we have. So any 2 points picked on a line, like the one in this example, we have to read the coordinates off the graph, and then we will have to calculate the slope from the points that we've chosen. Here we're using A and B, and putting those into the rise over run, we calculate the rise to be 3 and the run to be 2, so the slope is 3/2. Showing that this would get the same, we would have the same result if we use the coordinates in the slope formula. We should get 3/2, and we do. So, slope is just the rise over the run, or the change in y over change in x. So don't get scared, just take your time.